Civil disobedience is a really widespread term at the moment. There's lots of workshops about it. Comes up a lot in the media. But I get the feeling that people understand different things by civil disobedience. And I'm curious, what's your definition of civil disobedience? And does it include violence for you? And what kind of violence?
I think the first thing is, let's look at the word disobedience. It's pretty central to all our practice we do at the Laboratory of Insurrectionary Imagination. And it's central because we really believe that history is constructed through disobedience. We don't believe that history is constructed and change happens because governments say, yeah, here you go. You can have, you can have this, you can have the right to abortion, you can have the right to contraception, you can have the right to wear trousers if you're a woman. And so for us, we think everything, in a way, everything that we have and that we take for granted, the fact that you're wearing trousers, that happened because women disobeyed. That happened with women went to jail. The fact that we can vote for the very mayor who said that it's a cover for violence. The fact that we can vote happened because people disobeyed. People died for us to be able to vote. People died for us to be part of a union. Even contraception, something we think is totally normal, banal. There were activists who, Emma Goldman, for example, anarchist activist in the 19th century, who went to jail because she was handing out leaflets to the poor women to say, you don't have to have 10 children, you can use contraception. She went to jail for that. So, disobedience really, even the right for an independent magazine, like Megaphone, all these things, 200 years ago, you had no right to do an independent magazine. You would be censored immediately, thrown in jail. So I think our culture at school, we never learn this. No. We learn that history is made by kings, history is made by presidents and wars. Actually, history is made by people, and it's made through people disobeying, pushing the boundaries and breaking laws. In terms of, what is violent, I think the most violent thing is the system we're living in right now. I think we're living in a system based on a fundamental violence, which is putting money in front of all forms of life, and a system where the economy comes first, always. Whatever the crisis, everything is about growth and economy, and it turns life into money all the time, and it destroys life. And we can see that with, everywhere. So I think, when we're talking about violence, we have to always remember that actually, I think capitalism is it's a war of the economy against life. And that's the most violent thing. There are many traditions of civil disobedience all over the world, and I think it depends where you're talking about in terms of what tactics people use. I personally don't think that damaging an object, if no life is harmed, is violent. In fact, there's a long tradition in resistance. If you look at the resistance against Nazism, the resistance movements would be blowing up train lines, and to stop people going to concentration camps. I mean, that now people would say that's violence. I think that's stopping a form of violence. Even Gandhi said, if I had a chance if we had to blow up a train that was bringing weapons to kill the people, I would blow up the train. So I think, we can use what some government people would say is violence. I think it's self-defense. Okay. And as long as no form of life is hurt, I don't think it's violence. I think it's actually simply defense. But of course, the elite are always challenged by civil disobedience because it puts people in the driving seat, and they don't want people to be in the driving seat. They always want to be able to control people, and they always want the rule of law. And civil disobedience fundamentally says moral law is more important than state law. What I believe in.
Sorry.
So verboten.
Let's take a
so
turn.
state law is telling us we can't go through that way.
Oh yeah, actually we can take a picture here. It's quite symbolic. This is also the next place I wanted to say something about.
Okay.